Okay, well, this is exciting because this is the first time we've really been able to do like a proper manufacturing happy hour conversation, in that it's actually happy hour and we have some beverages. So first order of business, cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Excellent.
Prost.
You over there, Roger.
Prost.
It's a little far
There
away.
we go.
Very far.
We gotta do a proper
I
cheer.
like the clink in front of the microphone as well. That was good form. And in all of these interviews that we've doing, I've normally been doing the intros, but Jake, you've been working on your intro for this gentleman since last night. So I will pass the mic to you to lead this off.
Oh, fantastic. Well, first of all, this is Roger Christian. He is the Divisional Leader, New Business Development at Yaskawa America Inc. Motoman Robotics Division. Did I get that right?
That's a mouthful, but yes, you did. Perfect.
Fantastic. So first of all, just thanks again for coming on the happy hour show. We're really excited about some stuff. So the first thing I want to say is I'm going to list a couple of companies that we've all been listening, hearing in the news, hearing in the venture capital world, in the robotics world, and a lot of great conversations. So Path Robotics, Ready Robotics, Plus One Robotics, Mujin, Ambi Robotics, and many other companies that are really all over the news right now have something in common. And that's you, Roger. and in a short sense, give us the introduction. What do all those companies mean to you, and to what's really happened over the last 4 or 5 years in terms of startups?
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing is, we've been selling robots in the traditional markets. Dirty Danger is dull, and automotive is 65% of the robot markets 5 years ago, and we're seeing that change. And the only way we can do that is to team up with these technology companies that are making our robots smarter and work in unstructured environments. So I am all about supporting these startups with our industry knowledge, our application knowledge, as well as our robots. You want robots, we'll give you robots. You want to develop an interface for our robot, tell us what more you need based, beyond what we already can offer you in our SDK.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are not familiar with these companies are startups. I would say primarily in the last 5 years or so, many of these companies have really come to market with new products and new solutions, and the robotics AI space. As a summary, robotics and automation, just as you said, Roger, has been around for decades. But what we're seeing more and more is this new solution that's coming to market, and how robotics and AI are collaborating and creating new solutions and opportunities together.
Absolutely.
Many of these companies have received now hundreds of millions of dollars in venture capital over the past few years, but they started years before that VC was funding, working with Yaskawa with their Motoman Robotics division on you providing them basically renting low cost, free of charge, a bunch of options to help them develop those systems. Why is that important? I mean, when we look at the industry and the growth that's happening right now, why is that such a key play?
Well, first of all, as a startup or even pre-seed money, right? Angel investors and whatnot, they don't have the cash to lay out for a $30,000-$40,000 robot. Mm-hmm. So, it's not a big cost to us to do that, but the payoff is fantastic. It's like we're kind of playing like a VC role, or we know that if we get robots out to 20 and 2 hit it, boom, we're golden, and we increase our volume of robots. It also teaches us what we need to learn about new industries, how to prepare for that, and support the industry and be able to ramp up for them. I mean, some of the numbers that are being projected in the logistics market, food service market, and others is astronomical in terms of the growth. So all the big 4 robot companies depended on automotive and metals market for so long, and it was cyclical, right? It was up one year, down the next, and now it just keeps growing. And now we are being able to help support this huge labor shortage we have, increased wages, and solving problems for end users like FedEx that sponsored this show.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who can't see what we're looking at right now, Aaron is sitting off to the corner right now listening to this conversation.
Episode 52 of Manufacturing Happy Hour if you want to get to know him a little more.
But there's the plug right there.
So always got to go back to the old episodes.
You mentioned industries, Roger. I think this goes to our next question. it's not just robotics that you guys are caring about right now in terms of startups. It's also the collaboration with other products and solutions. Vision companies is one that comes to mind as an example. Why is it important for you guys to collaborate with products that are beyond just the typical, robot solution that people normally tend to think of?
I think Yaskawa wants to be put in a position where, we're subject matter experts, and then we can a lot of startups are, right out of CMU or MIT and have no clue, what a sensor is or how to hook things up or make them robust. So that's the kind of things we can do. And as we, help them, we also learn more about what sensors are available that they can use for higher res or lower res and cost performance and things like that. So we want to be able to help them, help industry, and help us at the end of the day.
So is that ultimately why you put such an emphasis on startups, because of an all ships rise with the tide scenario? Can you go into why maybe you personally are so passionate about helping these young companies?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been in the robot market since 1981, right? Started at Bendix Robotics when they thought they had to make a robot to compete with Cincinnati Millicrons. And those are long gone, robotic companies. But I lived 30 years through what I call Robots 1.0, which is the same old kind of stuff. And, we improve the peripherals, we improve the performance, we improve ROI, but we're not doing exciting things. And I always like exciting things. And these are bringing us new opportunities in markets that we never thought we could put a robot in. Robots are, 5 years ago or 8 years ago are stupid, right? You program them, they do the same thing all the time. As you start adding external sensors to the robot, then all of a sudden it can do some pretty amazing stuff. So personally, as a technical person that loves the technology, I get jazzed, to see these things. When Path came to me and said, 5 years ago, out of Case Western, two young brothers, and they said, "Hey, we want to take robots and make them weld without programming them." I'm going, okay, let's see how that's going to work.
So I think that jumps to this next question here. We're talking about technology. We're talking about, having robots weld without programming. I think that kind of dives into a little bit on the SDK and the open source that you guys are supplying these startups.
Right. So we have a platform called Moto Plus SDK, C++ programming environment, and allows access to our hundreds of API calls out of our controller for polling the robot, telling it what to do, streaming points to it. And within the Moto Plus, we wrote a pretty robust ROS industrial driver. So a lot of these startups start with ROS because it's a toolbox of things already developed that they don't have to start from scratch. It accelerates their development.
It's a recipe they can kind of pick from to grow.
It's pretty amazing. And the ROS industrial consortium managed by Swery is a great place for startups to start with. And it's globally contributed to every day, so that really, having that open source SDK allows them to easily hook into a robot. And some companies want to stream real-time points to the robot. Others want to tell the robot, here's where you got to go, and the robot takes over from there. So there's two philosophies on how that works.
I have a bit of a personal question now. You mentioned you've been doing this since 1981. You have 4 decades of experience that you've been sharing with us, but there, like we mentioned, there are a lot of young robotics companies out there. What's one of the best pieces of career advice that you received that you'd recommend, especially to these younger companies, whether they're earlier in their career or just new to the robotics space?
Network, connect with people, and rely on people for help when you need it. And the other piece of advice I gave to a startup that got bought by Boston Dynamics was, don't get excited with your first round. Be frugal. Don't get the nice furniture in the big office. Save your money and put it into your technology. And he reminded me of that after he got bought. He said, "Thank you for that advice."
So robots, in a sense, and I think this kind of leads to the next question. Clint, who we all know as well from Yaskawa, has a super big passion for this. And robotics, in a sense, is being used as a robot platform for startups. And what a lot of these startups are solving right now is the skill shortage and the labor shortage that's happening in the industry. There's so many conversations around robots and jobs, and there's a lot of controversial conversations. But the one thing I would say, when I look at almost every single one of these startups right now, Path Robotics, Ready Robotics, Plus One Robotics, they're all solving or bringing tools to the industry of major problems when it comes to the labor shortage. You know, why is that such a key thing for the robotics industry right now, that by using these startups and taking the robotic platform beyond just material handling to an AI-based solution, how is that helping companies in this workforce issue that we're facing right now?
Well, you answered your question with the question. It was like, yeah, there's a tremendous labor shortage, and people don't want these nasty jobs or these repetitive jobs. And COVID has kind of changed a lot of people's attitudes about even going back to work for 10, 12, 15 bucks an hour. And, you know, humans are meant to do more meaningful work than do this every day, sort packages or weld. And, you know, even in welding, I mean, the average welder is 55 years old, right? You told me that, Jake.
Yep.
I thought I was older, but 55, and it's not a glamorous job. Young kids aren't going into welding. So how do you solve that problem? Especially the problem we've always had in arc welding, which is a big part of our, you know, heritage, is we're really good at justifying high volume, low mix. So you put all the energy in the programming at first, and then it just makes a million parts.
Yep.
But in the job shops and the people making, you know, low volume, high mix, it was always too much of a pain to reprogram the robot to do that next run of 50 parts or 20 parts. So people like Path and others are making that a no-brainer, right? And the whole thought of, you know, robot as a service versus CapEx, that's getting thrown in the mix too with the whole startup industry, because VC's like the RAS, right? And customers are still deciding, right, Aaron, whether that makes sense. Right.
Awesome.
So as we wrap this up, you know, we've been doing these quick hit interviews throughout the course of the conference so far. One of my favorite questions to ask that I haven't gotten a chance to ask yet, is there something you wish we would have asked you? We've talked career, talked startups, talked robotics. Is there anything or any parting words of advice that you might have as we close this out?
You're killing me, guys. Obviously, go visit our booth at the Yaskawa booth. No.
This will come out after that anyway, so.
Yeah. I think it's listen to the customer's needs.
Yeah.
You know, how do you do that and then steer our 30, 40 years of, you know, experience, Clint and I and the rest of the Yaskawa team help steer the startups to make a meaningful product at a reasonable price point, right? And remember that, you know, you have $3,000 worth of hardware, a couple cameras and an IPC. Don't sell it for $40,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you took it down to 19, you'd sell 20 times more.
Yeah.
So that's my advice to startups.
No,
Don't overprice your stuff.
Good pricing tips at the end. Well, hey, if you are a startup out there, the best advice, the best call to action I think we can have is, well, connect with Roger, right? You've seen it all, you know it all, and that list you rattled off at the start, Jake, like that's that I'm sure it's only going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
So, hey,
I'm flattered. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Roger, it's been great having you on. One final cheers.
Cheers.
As we wrap this up. This has been great.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Right
Jake, Chris.
microphone.
Yeah.
Awesome.